Jason just set that clock and we don't know if it's right.
That's true.
Hey, well, you're live.
Are we? Good enough. Well, welcome to our regular city council meeting. It's Tuesday the 18th of March and 7 o'clock, and I'd like to have you all aboard tonight. So glad you're here. We'll first do the roll call, and my roll call is Travis is not able to make it tonight. He had some other things he had to attend to, so all else are here with one exception, and that is Norm. He's gone tonight. He's on an assignment down in St. George. And I have a little cough, so forgive me. Would like to ask if someone would like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
How about one of these?
I think one of those guys ought to do it.
Yeah, how about one of these scouts?
You want to do it? Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. What's your name? Thank you very much. I would also like to ask if someone would like to give us an inspirational thought or an invocation for the evening.
Well,
Thank you.
dear Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this opportunity to meet as the City Council. We're grateful for the freedoms that we enjoy, for the good citizens of our community. We're grateful for the moisture that we have received, as inconvenient as it is. It's absolutely necessary. Please bless our public works crew as they deal with the weather, and bless the people with the power company that have the skills and the equipment to restore our power. We're grateful for that. We express our gratitude for all we have and do so in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Yeah. Thanks, Art. Appreciate it. I'd like to go straight into the consent agenda. We have the minutes of the 4th of March, both the work session and the regular session. On the work session, has everybody had a chance to go through those? Are there any corrections or additions you'd like to make? And then on the regular meeting, the same. Okay, move on to the bills. We had bills from the 1st to the 14th of $902,000. Did you have a chance to review those? Mm-hmm. Oh, I got a cough. We're good to go. Pardon me. Sheesh. This is unfair. You know that? I would like a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved?
Second.
Moved in a second. Brian?
Aye.
Art?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Travis? Or Lynn?
Aye.
Good, it passed. I need a break for 1 minute. Is that okay? I just want to go cough.
Does he need a Diet Coke? Well, we're pleased to have somebody here with us tonight. Can you tell us what you're about?
So we're from the 3rd Ward up here on Summit Ridge. We just wanted to bring them in to see what this is all about.
We actually come down here to just give Emily Ollie a hard time.
That's okay too.
It must have worked. She left, so.
We was hoping to have all 11 or 12 boys, but it looks like we got 5.
I told my wife I wasn't gonna cough, so please don't tell her. No, I failed. We only have one person on the public forum. Lonnie, we'd like to give you 5 minutes and go through your business.
Never done this before, but oh well. Mayor, members of the city council, I appreciate the opportunity to come before you and just share a concern that kind of affects my wife and I. It's with Main Street MSR or MS, what's it?
It's
Main
MSR.
Street, yeah, MSR.
Yeah.
So my wife inherited a home there just off of the 245 West, 100 North, just straight behind the Family Dollar. And they owned that property where they built the townhomes and whatnot. She kept the home, which sits on a 3rd acre. We've been saving up a few pennies to hopefully turn that into a duplex for more income. And apparently we can't do that now. And I just have a hard time understanding the logistics behind that ordinance, where I'm surrounded by townhomes. And as most of you know, every townhome that's built in Santaquin now turns into a rental. I was inundated by them where I live, just across from the park, down by the elementary school. I went to Colorado for 5 years, came back, and nothing but townhomes around me. So anyway, and I've talked to the assistant city manager, and he's tried to explain it to me, and I still don't understand why. And let me go back up. So my father-in-law, when he put that home in 50 years ago, 40 years ago maybe, I can't remember. It's been a long time, but
At least.
he put that home in,
45.
built it with the intentions of turning it into a duplex. He had a little bit of a vision that he must have seen that housing was going to be tough for his kids. So he built that, and it has walkouts on both sides. And he didn't put no stairways in that home when he built it that goes downstairs, with the intentions of making that into a duplex or rentals for the necessary, maybe down the road, the kids, grandkids, whatever would need it. So, and I see these townhomes being built all over, and there's very, very little space for kids to even enjoy a yard. And this house sits on a 3rd acre, oodles of space for play, for parking, all the necessities needed without encroaching on the city streets. So I just feel like, and let me just share a couple of personal. So when I built my first home in Santaquin, I bought a lot. It was a corner lot. And the home that I wanted to build didn't quite fit according to the ordinance. It was on a corner, and they required at the time 30 and 30 setback and 30 side. So I went to the Board of Adjustments and asked if I went back 40 feet and move that house over 10 more feet, so it would only be 20, still it would not be a blind corner. That's what they told me was the reason for it. So they didn't go for it. So I ended up having to buy another lot a year later next to it so that I could fit the home that I built. So that was number one. Number two, I built a duplex just right behind where I live on 4th West. And I had an opportunity to buy that lot next to me to the north. And I wanted to put another duplex on it. Ordinance didn't allow me to do it. At the time, you had to be 400 feet between any multiple dwelling. That's what the ordinance read back then. Well, okay, I wasn't able to do it. So I didn't buy the lot. Well, lo and behold, while I was away to Colorado and came back and they built all the townhomes, that somebody had bought that lot next to me and put a fiveplex on it. A fiveplex, which very, very little room. Barely get enough room to get cars in. No play areas. Front yard's about from me to you, Mayor. And again, with the same townhomes. I see a threeplex townhome, whatever, just north of the Chevron. And I look at that, and that, whether it's you want to call it their backyard or front yard, can't be more than 5 feet from the property line. That's just, I just don't understand why I would not be able to turn that home into a duplex. I don't, I know this good brethren right here tried to explain it to me, but I just have in my mind, I don't understand. And so that's my concern. And I just, I guess I'm asking for an amendment to that ordinance if possible. You know, it just doesn't make sense to me. That house has got, it's you know, it's an older home, but yet sits on a huge lot. You know, I don't want to build another building on it. I just want to turn the basement into a duplex because that's what it was intended. That's what it was intended for. Big walkouts on each side. You know. Anyway, that's my spiel. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, hang on just a minute. I met with Lonnie a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Was it? And we went through this too. And we talked about what the issues were with that, you know, and you know, it's one of those things, especially as the story draws out, you see the changes in zoning or the zone of the year kind of thing that may move around. But he has some pretty good arguments for this. But the only way I think that he could even move forward is if you as a body would like to consider his arguments and pass it back to planning and zoning and see if there's a recommendation that they might like to make.
Could this qualify as a ADU?
Nope.
No.
ADUs and duplexes are different.
No, that's another thing on that ADU. It says now that the minimum lot size is 1 acre with a minimum of 8 dwellings and a maximum of 12, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, again, you're putting high density into another small area.
So
Do you have any like references of what you're I'm just trying to follow what you're sharing, but I would love to, if you have like the ordinance and that stuff that I could personally take a look, because it's just really hard for me to follow right now.
So
Yeah.
Brian, Councilmember Del Rosario, I can help you with that. I spent a good hour with Lonnie and I drafted an email to the mayor that I can forward to you that there's kind of a long history on what happened here and how it happened. So to clarify something that was said, so ADUs, they need to be owner occupied. Lonnie is interested in leasing 2 units, so an owner wouldn't be in there. So that's a true duplex. So not quite the same thing, but just in a nutshell, the short history with this is back in, I believe, I'm trying to remember the email, I think it was 2020 or 2021, the R8 zone actually allowed for multifamily in the R8 zone. And we would get these projects that would pop up here and there. And finally, the council at that time, in fact, I know some were on the planning commission or even the council at that time, they would hear all the complaints from the neighbors in the R8 zone about multifamily. And so the council decided to basically prohibit multifamily in the R8 zone. Now, that was about the time, too, where the state legislature was really starting to harp on moderate income housing and that sort of a thing. So instead of just doing away with multifamily, that's where accessory dwelling units and the allowance for those happened. So that took place, and then there was another project, and Lonnie alluded to that. It was the project down by Holiday Oil, just to the south of it. And when that happened, the council that time said, I thought we took care of this and there was no more multifamily. Well, that is right on the edge of the R8 zone and the MSR zone. And so they wanted to consider not having multifamily in the MSR zone as well. Well, again, with state legislature pressures, that was a hard thing to do. So what they did is there was an understanding that, and Lonnie's kind of alluded to this, where these really small multifamily projects didn't seem to have quite the quality to them that a larger one did. And specifically, we have a requirement in our code where once you reach 8 units, you need to have a tot lot. And so there was an amenity that accompanied it with at least 8 units. And so what they did was they didn't prohibit multifamily. It's actually allowed in the MSR, but it's such a narrow target in order to do multifamily because you have to have at least 8 units. They also said you have to have at least 1 acre, and you can't have more than 12 units. And that's what Lonnie was alluding to. So Lonnie does not have an acre, and he only wants to have 2 units. So with that provision in our code, it doesn't allow him to do that. So I think if the council wanted to reconsider that in the MSR, that's something that you certainly could do. I think the council at that time, which I think by the time that happened, it was 2022. By the time that happened, then they felt like in order to have multifamily in MSR, they wanted to see it a little bit larger in scale, so that it had a tot lot and had amenities and things like that, instead of being a 2, 3, 4, and so on, small multifamily development. So that's kind of the context in just a couple minutes, but that's essentially where we're at. And I think in meeting with Lonnie, he feels like the zoning in the core area is kind of flopped back and forth between multifamily, no multifamily, and now we're in a spot where it's very restrictive towards multifamily, which is counterproductive to what his plans were with that home. So that's where we stand, and in order to really change it, it would need to be an ordinance amendment. And if it's something that the council is interested in entertaining, we can certainly run it through the process, a legislative process, hold a public hearing, have the planning commission review it, and bring it back to you if you'd like.
What zone is he in now?
He's in the Main Street
MSR.
residential,
Okay.
MSR.
If this went through, what other situations would arise because of it changing?
Depends on how you change it. But essentially, the MSR zone is kind of the back half of a block off of Main Street,
Right,
both north
right.
and south. And so that's essentially kind of that linear zone on the north and south side of Main Street that you'd be looking at if you consider just MSR. So
If this was changed, would it open the floodgates for other problems, or is this kind of an isolated thing?
I wouldn't say that it opened the floodgates per se,
depends on
but
what we-
it would certainly allow other properties to do similar type of projects of multifamily.
There's already one, but it's in the MSC, and that's just right down here
The other thing, if
that
I may,
exists.
I don't know if it would make a difference, but where that house was intended to be a duplex from day one, I don't know if that, because of the walkouts that was put in the foundation, in the basement at the time, and no stairs from the upstairs. There's no stairs going down into the basement from the upper levels.
So it's already essentially 2 units.
It was designed for a duplex.
So they're separate already.
They're separate already.
Is there not like a conditional? Isn't there somewhere in the
it's
code where
already a condition.
Even though the
multifamily
form might
dwelling?
have looked like a duplex, it wasn't being used as a
Yeah.
duplex. So that's where the grandfather or the legal non-conforming
Yeah, if it wasn't-
clause comes into play. Is it needs to be used that way and approved that way. A duplex is not something that just happens on its own. It still has to go through an approval process because there are other requirements along with that. So unfortunately for him, it doesn't qualify as being grandfathered just because they had the intent or they intended for it to be a
Yeah.
duplex in the future.
So if he had an acre, he could put 12 there. With a third of an acre, he can't put 2.
Nope. Not according to our code.
Well, and
That's
I
the
understand.
part I'm having a hard
I've
time
been part of this for a
understanding.
long time. I understand But I think we listen to our citizens, and I think we ought to take a look at it just to see,
Yeah.
because I don't understand it fully yet, but I think we ought to look at it. I don't think we just say no. I think we
I
look
don't,
at
I
it.
don't think it hurts,
No.
but I think your point is valid too, and that's what floodgate does it open?
I think if you
I think that's what we
word
need
it
to study.
properly, you narrow down who will be allowed to do it
Yeah.
and who won't.
I
It's
certainly,
a half a block on
Yeah, it's a
two
small-
blocks apart.
It's a
all
small
the way
It's
zone.
right by the
across town.
townhomes.
I certainly be in favor of taking a look at it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Given the housing market,
Do we have
You bet.
to make a motion on this, or
Nope.
we just do
No.
it?
We'll take your direction and we can start the process, or I guess the direction that I take from you is, would you like him to initiate the process, or are you happy to initiate this process internally to consider what he's asked for?
Which is better?
Well, he would need to pay and create an application, or you can direct staff to just do kind of an internal initiation of a legislative process.
Well, I think we do it
I
then.
think we can
Okay.
just do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's-
just
yeah.
do it. Let's see if we can help this out. It may fix another issue or two in the future. I don't know that it's going to be a big problem, but I think this is a good thing.
definitely worth looking into.
Yeah.
Right.
So
See
all
what
we
we
have
can
to
do to
do is go ahead,
Work on that.
go
Yep.
ahead and initiate it.
I'll work with community development, and we'll set a public hearing and take it to the planning commission, and it may start off as more of a discussion. There's not really a proposal necessarily. That's kind of why I asked if you wanted him to make a proposal, or if it's just we're trying to find maybe a potential solution to address what he's talking about. It could be addressing that specific provision about 1 acre minimum, 8 unit minimum with a maximum of 12 units, or it could be just something else. But
There may be a couple of things we want to look at
Right.
with this that goes beyond the duplex situation, but let's just go ahead. And
Okay.
Would this involve a mailing to neighbors?
For a public hearing.
oh, I'm sure it would.
so it'd be
Just
a public
the people
hearing.
in that zone, correct?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, so it'd be a public hearing, and then I think there would be, we're not changing a zone, we're amending language within a zone, so there would not be notification letters
Oh,
associated with
okay.
that.
Thank you.
Okay?
Good, thank you.
We'll do
Appreciate it.
that, and
Members of
then
the council.
let me know when you know when it is. I can contact Lonnie,
Right.
or we'll get your phone number to him so that you're alerted when it'll be on a meeting.
Right.
Okay.
Due to noticing requirements, it's not gonna be able to be on next Tuesday,
No, yeah, there's no big rush.
because we need
Just-
14-day noticing requirements. So we'll work on it, we'll get it going, and it'll likely be on the planning commission's first meeting in April.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate you all and your efforts. I know I've been in this town when it was little hard to come in after us. I palled around when we were in junior high here in Santaquin, and man, has it grown.
Yeah.
And I thank all of you for, you guys have thicker skin than I do. And with the growth, it has to get thicker. So thank you.
Wait a minute, Lonnie. I've known you way too long. You've got pretty thick skin.
It's getting thin. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Okay. Why don't we go through the building permits and the license report?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, as you'll see, we are just still a little bit ahead of pace of where we were at this time last year. We're up to 76 residential dwelling units as compared to 70 last year. And then as always, you can see the previous year totals there. For fiscal year, we are again still ahead of pace at this point in the fiscal year, which we're getting towards the end now. We're up to 196. This time last year, in the fiscal year, we were at 168, and then you can see the totals from previous fiscal years. Again, fiscal year is for the public in attendance is July 1st to June 30th. And then for new business licenses, there you can see we have 4, one of them being a commercial and 3 home occupation. And I will leave it at that unless you have any questions for me.
Okay. We're ready to move on, but I wanted to warn the Boy Scouts. Over the next, half an hour to 45 minutes or maybe beyond, we are going through a yearly training that everybody has to do as a member of the city council. It's so that you look at the laws and you live up to it, and it may get boring, and I just wanted to warn you in advance. So if you fall asleep, that's okay. You know, if you need a Coke, let me know.
Thank you for the warning. I might leave a little bit early.
I would understand.
Yeah, we're okay. Go ahead.
So yeah, I'll just get this video started here quick. Just a short introduction. These are videos that came from Utah League of Cities and Towns conferences a few years ago. I think they're still very much relevant. We're not going to watch all of both of them. I've tried to just take the parts that I think are most applicable and could be useful for the council to hear. Before the meeting, I gave council members a printout of our code specific to the mayor and city council. As I watched these videos in preparation for showing this to you tonight, there was a couple times where he talks about your local code and what that specifically says is what you need to understand. So with that, I'll just get this started and we'll do this training. It'll be about 35 minutes or so, and then we can continue on with the agenda.
This would be my...
My name's David Church. I'm the General Counsel to the Utah League of Cities and Towns. When I do a presentation, I don't use a PowerPoint, so you won't be distracted by me not being able to manipulate the machinery. And you can feel free to raise your hand at any time and ask any question that you think is appropriate to the subject at hand, and I'll answer it. It's not going to throw it off. You don't have to wait to the end. The more questions, the better. I know lots of you have questions.
I will say similarly, if there's any questions you have about what's being said, tell me and I'll pause it, and Brett or I would be happy to address any questions you have as we go along with this.
And I would really appreciate it if you do have them, that you ask them. Every time after I finish one of these, 4 or 5 or 6 or 8 people come up to me and then say, well, I wanted to ask this, but I didn't want to ask it in front of everybody else. That takes all the fun out of it. Okay, first let's talk just generally about the Open and Public Meetings Act. We all know what it is now. At least we should, but for maybe there's one person here that's new, that just got appointed last week, that just got elected. We'll start from scratch for them. The Open and Public Meetings Act is a state law that is written by and passed by the state legislature that is intended to apply to all public bodies in the state. It applies, there isn't a separate Open and Public Meetings Act for towns or counties. There isn't a separate Open and Public Meetings Act for the legislature. It's the same act for everybody. And the act, interestingly enough, has a policy statement that is very clear and straightforward. That policy statement says this. It says that it is the intent of the legislature that the state and its political subdivisions exist to aid in the conduct of the people's business, and that they are to take their actions openly and their deliberations are to be conducted openly. Very straightforward, very clear. It's the intent of the legislature that we deliberate openly and we take our actions openly. Let me just say, this is so important to the legislature that they put it right at the start of the act. They even put in the act that there's the potential for criminal penalties if we violate the act. It's so important to the legislature that they don't bother to apply it to themselves. In 2015, I was looking at a newspaper article yesterday about the legislative session, and then got passed in the back of the legislative session. And you remember in 2015 when the big issue in the state was Medicaid expansion, you know, the Obamacare, and the legislature's considering it. There's a quote in the newspaper on the healthcare debate of 2015 from our Speaker Hughes. He said, he's quoted as saying,
The Draper Republican, meaning the speaker, said a private discussion was merited given the plan's potentially wide-ranging effect for years to come. We can't do this in a fish tank, Hughes said, highlighting concerns that public scrutiny might hamper an honest and open debate. In 2017, when they're talking about tax reform, the newspaper article says, tax reform, the most debated issue at the 2017 legislature, never even had a public hearing after closed-door negotiations among Republicans failed to produce an agreement on a plan that included restoring the sales tax on food. Their work was largely carried out behind the scenes and debated in closed-door House and Senate Republican caucus meetings. Democrats were briefed on the proposal but did not participate in the discussions. That's the unfairness of the world in which we live. We're subject to the Open and Public Meetings Act, and we're required to deliberate and debate openly. We're not given the same opportunities that the legislature has given themselves, that when we have tough issues or difficult discussions, to deliberate and debate in closed session. We don't get to take closed straw polls on the tough issues and decide whether or not we're going to bring it forward for a final vote. We don't get to hold a closed discussion and avoid, as Speaker Hughes says, the fish tank. They can't do it in a fish tank. We're expected to. So let me tell you why and how it works and how it applies. First, the policy and purpose is that our decisions and our deliberations have to be taken openly. It applies to every public body, and it applies to every meeting of a public body. The first thing you need to understand is, what is a public body? Public body is defined in the Act to be any body that's been officially created by some official action like an ordinance, a constitution, the legislature, that consists of two or more persons, that has the power, that's supported by public funds, and has been given even a little bit of power, that has the power to make a public decision or give advice on a public decision. So clearly all of our city and town councils are public bodies. They're created by statute. They have more than two or more people. Clearly all of our planning commissions are public bodies. They're created by your local ordinance. They consist of two or more persons. Although, interestingly, in theory, you could have a planning commission of one person. The statute says on planning commissions, this drives the planners nuts, by the way, when I suggest this. It's my goal in life before I quit to create one of these. The statute says we can designate the number of our planning commissioners by ordinance. I just want somebody sometime to say, our planning commission consists of one member. That way we'd never have to hold a public meeting and we'd get our decisions done quicker. But no one's taken me up on that yet. But clearly those are public bodies. If you create a committee officially, a commission, an advisory panel, and you officially create it by resolution or ordinance, and you support it with public funds, and you give them some level of authority, it is a public body and will be subject to the Open and Public Meetings Act. So those of you who have standing historic committees, if you have a cemetery advisory committee, if you have the golf course advisory committee, the town days committee, and it's official, it was created by some ordinance or resolution, and you give them some power to make a decision and you support them with public money, they have to comply with the Open and Public Meetings Act. Now, the reason why the legislature gets to deliberate and decide the way they do is they have defined in the act that public body does not include a political caucus. So at the legislative level, they've just said, everybody's a public body except when we meet as a political caucus, and then we're not a public body and we can do it in private if we want. There's no opportunity for those of you in this room to do it that way. I don't think there's a city in the state anymore that runs a partisan political election, although it's still in state law, unless they've taken it out this year, was the option for cities of less than the second class to run partisan elections. But the last city I knew that did that was Ephraim, and I think they gave that up long ago. But you don't have political caucuses. You can't just divide and say, we're going into caucus, we're going into the political party caucus, we're going to decide what we're going to do, then come out. Nor do I think you should. I think it's good public policy to deliberate and debate in public. I think the public ought to know, for example, on the 2017 tax reform, which legislators were in favor of taking the sales tax off food, which legislators were in favor of putting the sales tax back on food. They didn't think that was important for us to know. They wanted to know, do we have a majority? If we have a majority, we'll bring it out and vote on it. If we can't decide amongst ourselves, we won't bring it out and vote. Okay, we know what a public body then is. The next question is, yes, his question is, we have a closed session when we're considering certain contracts, how does that fit? I'll talk about that in a minute, but let me just say there is the possibility of closed sessions. I'm worried when you say certain contracts. It depends on the subject matter of it, but if I don't cover it, remind me when we get there. The next question we always need to answer once we know what a public body is the definition of meeting. This is where people get into trouble and where there can be some conflict and controversy. How do we know when we're meeting? Meeting is defined as the convening of the public body. Somebody has called it together by somebody who has the authority to convene it for the purposes for which the public body has been created and in which a quorum is present. There is not a meeting unless you're convened for your purpose and a quorum is present. Now, all the time I get the question, well, was it a meeting of Ephraim City Council or whatever City Council or the North Salt Lake City Council when we came to the League of Cities and Towns Convention? I see a quorum of the North Salt Lake City Council present here. Is it their meeting? My answer to that is no. They weren't convened as the North Salt Lake City Council. It's the meeting of the Utah League of Cities and Towns. There may be 3 members of the North Salt Lake City Council here present. It may be a quorum of the North Salt Lake City Council, but they weren't convened to meet here as the North Salt Lake City Council. It's somebody else's meeting. So if you're convened, if there's a quorum, it could be a meeting. What is a quorum? A quorum is defined in the state statute as a majority of the governing body unless there's a statute or rule that defines it otherwise. Your quorum for your city and town councils is defined by state law. Your quorum, if you're in a city that has under the 6-member form of government, mayor and 5 council members, your quorum is 3 council members. Your mayor and 2 is not a quorum. 3 council members without the mayor is a quorum. If you're in a town that has or Harriman City that has the 5-member council form of government, you've got a mayor and 4 council members, your quorum is any of those 3. The mayor and 2 is a quorum. 3 council members without the mayor is a quorum. Any 3 in the 5-member council form is a quorum. Some of the larger cities have the 7-member council form of government. The quorum in that is 4. So you've got 4, you're in a quorum, you could be in a meeting. Any questions about what a meeting is and quorum for you? For your planning commissions, your quorum is going to be established either by your ordinance that creates it or your rules of procedure, or if there is none, it's a majority of your planning commission. Yes, sir. This question was on a board. Does the chair count towards the quorum and can he vote? If the board has been created by some ordinance or statute and it defines quorum, then you would look to that definition. If there is no definition, then it is a majority of the members of of the public body, which would include counting the chairman. Whether the chairman can vote or not vote depends on your rules of procedure for your particular board that have either set by statute or adopted. So the simple example is, of course, in a city with a 6-member form of government, the mayor votes only in cases of a tie and on issues of whether or not to take away the mayor's power or give it back to him, and on hiring and firing the city manager. In a 5-member council form of government, the mayor votes on every issue. In the mayor-council form of government, the strong form that Salt Lake has, the mayor doesn't sit as a member of the council. The mayor doesn't have a vote on the council. The mayor has a veto. So it depends. The mayor's role, the mayor's vote, depends on how you're set up, but the mayor's participation, the chair is definitely a member of the public body, and without an other statute saying so, would count towards the quorum, because a majority of the board is the quorum by default. Any other questions on quorum? Yes. Her question is 3 city council members at a non-city function social gathering, and they begin to speak about the city topic. Excellent question. One of the exceptions to the meeting definition is chance get-togethers or purely social occasions. Those are defined out of being a meeting. So a purely social occasion where you're all there, you know, and which city are you from? Millville. They're all in the same Relief Society presidency. You can't get a man to run for office in Millville anymore. She's been very kind about that. And it's, you know, there's only one ward interested in local government. It is not a meeting if you just get together for some other purpose or some social occasion or something like that. But if you then take the opportunity to start talking about city business, you're on the slippery slope. You're on dangerous ground, because the purpose and the intent of the legislation is that we take our decisions openly and we deliberate openly. If you find yourself deliberating, you're close to cheating. You're caucusing, like the Republicans do to make tough decisions. You're just caucusing in a better location when you do it at the Christmas dinner. Any other questions? Yes. Hey, email. Can you convene via email? Electronic meetings are possible under the Act. So it is, in theory, possible to be convened in a meeting even if none of you are in the same room. It is also possible to deliberate and decide via email. So it is possible to cheat via email. But I cannot say that you emailing all members of the council with your position violates the Open and Public Meetings Act, because it doesn't. The statute specifically defines electronic communication, and then it includes in that email, texting, as electronic communication. And the statute says that nothing in the Open and Public Meetings Act shall be construed to in any way to say that electronic communication between the board members is a violation of the Act.
Did they change that since this time? Because since COVID, they've allowed people to have meetings by Zoom and vote. And previous to that, they never let them do it.
To convene meetings, but you can have electronic.
Or
meetings.
participate electronically and vote.
You say they did not?
Well, he was just saying you
No,
didn't.
you can have electronic participation in meetings, and your ordinance does provide for that.
Oh, it does. So, but
You've got to have an
previous,
ordinance for it, and you do.
I thought previous to that you couldn't vote via a remote site.
And I think you're correct, Mayor, because this is pre-COVID, this training that he did, and it seems like there was something that the state legislature did to accommodate cities being able to do electronic meetings. But as Brett was indicating, there was things that I think we had in our code that allowed us to do that as well.
Yes. So you have to have an ordinance, but you have had an ordinance for many years.
Okay.
So I have a question. So he said emailing all members of the council with your position does not violate the Open Public Meetings Act. Is that still accurate to the state?
I would be very careful. There have been some changes since he's giving this presentation to specifically address those things. So I would definitely counsel against that.
Okay. Because I personally, and I know it's been brought up by other people, that was a violation, but I personally don't believe it's a violation.
So I think
and so I would love if we can get any clear change or guidance.
I think maybe what he was alluding to was, and sometimes this happens if an email is sent saying, hey, we're meeting here for City Hall ribbon cutting or whatever. I think providing information is one thing. If one council member said, this is how I feel on this issue, that's one thing. But if there's a response and there starts to be deliberation via email, that's where it's definitely, I would agree with Brett that I think you want to avoid telling council via email, which is not in a public and open setting of what you're going to do. But I think his point is that like telling what you feel is maybe not in and of itself violating it, but it is slippery slope because it invites another council member to respond to that maybe, and then you're deliberating.
But it's not a violation according to the legal counsel he's giving.
Well, but I'm saying there have been things that have changed. For example, you look at 52-4-208, predetermining public policy and action prohibited. You can run into problems, and see this kid was effective last year, 2024, and I believe it does change some things. We don't have court decisions, court opinions that are relative to this particular statute yet, but to me, you always have to look at what statute is coming out and what is the likely effect going to be. And I will always advise you to stay away from that line. And this is one specifically that concerned me a little bit.
So what's that one say?
It says individuals constituting a quorum of a public body may not act together outside a meeting in a concerted and deliberate way to predetermine an action to be taken by the public body at a meeting on a relevant matter.
And I think it's good.
I think the gray area is that they're wondering whether it's a meeting or not. If three are corresponding, all of a sudden it falls into that
Yes,
possible.
I'm suggesting stay away from that line.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where this is so new. The trouble is, how is a court going to decide it once an issue does come up on it?
I just don't want to be the poster child.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
My counsel was always, or my intent is always to keep you away from the line, so you're not the trial case on this.
Yes.
And I think it's important to acknowledge this is very old, and state legislation is continuously changing, even related to stuff like this. And so sometimes it's hard to find a good resource to give you a training. I mean, obviously Brett could do that. And I would say that Brett is your legal counsel, and I think he's going to give you your legal counsel, and I would suggest that you follow his legal counsel. Now, David Church is an attorney. He's retired now, but this is old, and he's not your legal counsel. So I think it's important to take into consideration what Brett's telling you.
But David is very knowledgeable and has done a wonderful job for many years. I've worked with him on a number of different things. He does a great job, but as soon as somebody's presentation ends, it's likely to be changed by the legislature. That happens every year. And so I just wanted to give you one example here, because this one is one that came to mind. I know it was after his presentation here, and it is one that concerned me. We need to pay attention to this and make sure we're not the ones who end up before the Utah Supreme Court, letting them decide whether or not we violated the law.
Great questions.
Amen.
Okay, 5 more minutes.
Back in the old days, before they amended the statute that way, before Facebook was created, before texting was so popular, it was easy for me to say, look, If you all get on the telephone in a conference call, you have convened and you are deliberating and you're cheating. It was also easy for me to say, but if you call John and say, this is how I feel, what do you feel? You're not cheating. There is no quorum. It's two of you discussing. You're politicking. You're deciding. And, you know, I shut that off and it came on automatically. And then if John calls Ned and says, I just had a discussion, and there's only two on, I can't say that you're convened. I can't say you're cheating. That was easy. You could draw clear lines. But if you all got on the conference call, you were clearly cheating. And then email came along, became popular, and people would say, what about if I email everybody? Well, I can't say that's cheating. What about if we're all sitting at our computer and we're emailing in immediately, right back and forth, and everybody's getting it, or we're texting right now? I used to train that appears to me to be absolutely a meeting and that you're deliberating and deciding. But the statute says that electronic communication is not necessarily a violation of the act. I will tell you that you are cheating if you're all on some text messaging board at the same time or email at the same time or are having a back and forth discussion in real time about the issue and how you're going to vote and there's a quorum present. I will also tell you that I don't think it's cheating if you get on Facebook, for example, on those forums. How much more transparent and public is that? You know, everybody in town could be on it with you. So you will know when you draw the line. You will know if you're cheating. But it is not a violation of the Open and Public Meetings Act for you to email everybody on the town council or the city council and say, we're crazy if we do this. Or it's not a violation if you send everybody a text message during the middle of the week that says, I'm voting no and you're not going to change my mind. And they text you back and say, what could we do to change your mind? And that's not cheating. But it's getting close. Did that answer your question? Yes. It seems like it's cheating to me too, but I don't think it's technically a violation of the act anymore. And by the way, you're going to get caught of it. I've been training on this and teaching on this kind of stuff for so many years. I tell the same stories. I've got no new ones. I can barely remember anything anymore. I'm aging faster than anybody else in the room. Some of you have been here a long time, by the way. But and so I decided this morning when I came up that I'm not going to feel bad about retelling the same stories and using the same examples because maybe everybody else has forgotten I've told them. But back in the when I first became a city attorney, one of my first clients that I went to all the city meetings with was Riverton City. A very nice city, lovely place to represent, very rural and small town at the time, back in 1980 or that. I don't see anybody from Riverton here, are they? But they had a restaurant in town called La Fonda's there, and before every city council meeting, the council met and had, something at La Fonda's. And when you came to the meeting, it was clear how efficient that worked. You didn't waste time on long discussions. You knew what was going to happen. It was also very clear to the members of the public present. You know, it's a tough issue. Somebody raises their hand. I move we do it for the reasons previously discussed. And they say, okay, all aye. And somebody says, when previously discussed? And then somebody say, oh yeah, at dinner, you know. Now, that's changed over the years. We don't do that as much anymore. It's clear now that no matter what we call it, a work meeting, other meeting, they're all public meetings, no matter what you call them. The same rules apply to every meeting. The location doesn't matter. It's a meeting. It's subject to the Open and Public Meetings Act. And I know it's difficult for people to avoid that, but remember, we voluntarily got into this. You voluntarily ran for election. It's like going to the beach and refusing to wear the swimming suit. Okay, we know what a meeting is. We know what a quorum is. We know what a public body is.
Sorry,
Once you get that far,
I got 2 videos playing at the same time.
it's easy to.
We're not going to
comply
watch
with
all
the
this
Public
video. There's
Meetings
just a
Act.
couple snippets
It's a
of it.
low standard of compliance. It's not hard. All we have to do is this. You give proper notice of your meeting, and you open the doors of the meeting room to the public. Notice means at least 24 hours before the meeting, you create an agenda, call of the meeting. It's got the date, time, and place of the meeting on it, a list of what you intend to discuss or consider on it. You post that on the state public meeting website. You post it at the place of the meeting. You send a copy of that to your news media outlets who are interested. You don't have to pay them to publish it. You send it to them, and you've complied then with the notice requirements. Then all you have to do is allow the public to come in and watch you meet. You don't have to allow them to participate in the meeting. You don't have to allow them to disrupt the meeting. You don't have to allow them to do anything but sit and stare at you the way you're doing me. You don't even have to ask them questions or let them interrupt you. That's all up to you on your own rules and policies and procedures. Now, some of your meetings at some times will be required public hearings. When you have a required public hearing, that portion of the meeting, you've got to let the public participate. But at a public meeting, you don't have to let the public participate. It's still your meeting. It's not the public's meeting to hijack. I think that that kind of misunderstanding is what drives us to hold these secret meetings and deliberate in secret, because either we haven't established good enough rules of procedure or good enough customs or practice or procedure to keep the public from disrupting us, or we're not self-disciplined enough to run good, tight meetings in public where we feel like we can get things done efficiently. A good example to me, by the way, I think on this is the legislature on how they do it. For this, they're very formal, obviously, those of you who've been there. But in the legislative process, you have committee hearings on bills. They are public hearings. Members of the public and invited experts will be invited to present or allowed to present on these bills. That's the public hearing process. Now, any of you who've ever been there know that the legislature doesn't let those run on forever. There's a set amount of time allotted. There are rules. The public has their input. They're done. If there's more public input, that committee decides if they want to hear any more, and when they're done, they're done. Some of them are very long, some of them are very short, but it meets the committee requirement, the public hearing requirement. And then when the legislature meets and deliberates, the public gets to sit up in those galleries if you've been there. But at no time does any member of the public get to raise their hand and interrupt the debate and make a comment. If they do, they get ushered out. The legislature, the body, discusses and deliberates and votes. So you have the public process and the very formal public deliberation and deciding process, and it's efficient. We can do the same things in our meetings and make them efficient, and that helps us avoid this temptation to try to do things in secret, to try to avoid the big, mean public meetings that we can sometimes have and that kind of thing. But it's just a matter of rules and function. Just add one other thing and answer any other questions you've got on anything specific. One of the things that we learned yesterday in the legislative update is that today, or this year, you're less powerful than you were last year at this time. The legislature has taken away some of your options, some of your things. But I just wanted to tell you, you're not less important. We have to always keep in mind, it gets so discouraging. We see these reports about what the legislature says we can and we can't do. Most of those go with our power, our ability to regulate. We have to always keep in mind our primary functions. We are the government that provides service. We're the people that bring clean water to the houses and take the dirty water away. When it storms, we divert the floodwaters away from the houses. We plow the roads, we sweep the roads, we build the roads, we quiet barking dogs. No matter what the legislature's done, we're still expected to do that, and we're the ones that are going to have to do it. I can tell you that if your constituents tomorrow went to their legislator and said, North Salt Lake's not doing a good job on the snow plowing, their response would be they'll pass a bill requiring us to snow plow better. They wouldn't plow any snow. We're the ones doing the work, and you should be proud of that. That's what we should primarily be focused on. The fact that we can or cannot regulate food trucks better or worse isn't as important as, are we bringing good water to their houses? When they call 911, do we get good response time? Does the fire department function? And the second thing we do that the legislature can't do for them and they can't take away from us is we're the ones that build a sense of community and preserve the sense of community. Richfield is a wonderful hometown because of what this good mayor does now and what every mayor did before him and every council. My father, I've said this before, I'm going to go, when we're done with this, over to Panguitch and visit my father. I was raised in Murray. My father was born in Panguitch. When he retired from the school business in Murray some 30 years ago now, he moved home to Panguitch. Why did he? Because it was his hometown. People protected and preserved and built and preserved that sense of community. Everybody needs a place to be from and a place to go home to. That's what we do. We shouldn't worry so much about whether the legislature lets us have big lots or small lots, or whether we can regulate home occupations or not regulate. That's important. I mean, we want to do that. We think we can make our communities better if they give us more reins. But the primary thing that you do and do so well is we provide service and we build hometowns. Keep doing that. Focus on that. That's what's really important. Don't get caught up in regulating, passing laws, doing things. Now, we're going to tax, we're going to spend, we're going to set rates, but what we're going to do is when I turn on the water in the morning in St. George and brush my teeth, I'm going to do that with confidence because Gary Esplin and Mayor Pike can make it happen. And when I go home to South Jordan, I'm going to flush a toilet and do that with confidence because that mayor and that council makes that happen. And when I have a problem and call 911, I'm going to do it in confidence because people like you make that happen. Not what the legislature does, not what others do. That's what we need to concentrate on, and that's why I'm most proud of representing you guys and working with you guys, because you're the ones that do it. And without you, nobody would, and if you didn't do it, they just order you to, because it needs to be done. Do you have any other?
Okay. Do you guys have any follow-up questions about things that you heard, or anything related to Open and Public Meetings Act that Brett or I can talk to?
I wasn't sure if he was talking about the 6-member council like we have, but he said the mayor has the power or authority to veto. I've never heard that.
So that's for a strong mayor form of government. Yeah. So like Provo, Sandy, Salt Lake, their mayor is not a member of the council. He is just a mayor. He is the chief executive, if you will. So he doesn't vote, but the mayor in that form of government could have veto power.
Okay.
Okay, we good? We'll get our diplomas from the Utah Open Meetings Act here in the next few years. So look for that in mailbox. Ready to move on to resolutions? Did we go over the new business?
Mm-hmm.
We did, yeah. It's just out of order right there.
Yep, we're to the new business now.
Yeah. Resolutions. We have the amendment to the employee policy that has to deal with a change that needed to be made for the medical cannabis, which under state law pretty much are required to entertain. This has taken Dave Church's son to be involved and a whole bunch of others. Brett's worked on this, so do you want to go with it?
Maybe just start off with, I just want to say there's obviously some specific situations that have led to this. We won't talk in specifics about those, and I would caution you to, but this is really direction the council gave staff to look at our employee policy pertaining to medical cannabis and really to address it in a way or bolster it so that it can be something that can be a more useful tool for the council during a future time where there's a potential issue with this topic. So this is something that, Brett has participated in, but we've had outside legal counsel who is a little bit more familiar with these specific things. Take a look at. They provided us this draft language, knowing the goal that you had. And I think there should be an understanding that this is a complicated topic and something that is ever changing. But for the time period that we're in, for the given moment in time, this is the suggested language that they've given us to accomplish the goals that the council had pertaining to a bolstered policy related to medical cannabis. So I'm, without going through all the details, because there's a lot of little changes here and there, and it's hopefully something you've been able to review. I'll just leave it at that, and unless you have any questions for myself or Brett.
Is it possible to answer it very shortly? Is it more restrictive or less restrictive?
The direction the council gave us was to bolster it to be a little bit more restrictive and give the city the ability to act in a certain way that the city council wanted to in a past situation we had.
So
okay,
my understanding is this is prescribed medical. This isn't recreational.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
And this comes up a lot, especially since the state has made it available. We just have to make sure that we are protecting ourselves, our people, and even those that are given those medications. And you don't know what the end is going to be, but what we do want to do is make sure that we've covered ourselves with everything. People need to make sure that they're not working under the influence in any way, and that's really where we're trying to be.
With this direction or change, will our directors cover that with their staff? How will everybody get to know?
All the directors know, anybody that works underneath them that is taking this.
Okay.
Yep.
Mainly because they go through periodic tests,
Right.
as well as sporadic or if there was an incident. if someone was to get in a car accident in the middle of the day and they were working public works or doing something else, the first thing that happens, make sure that they're okay, but then they're taken over for tests.
And Mayor, I think through this process, one thing to make clear is regardless of what drug it is, if there's any impairment at all, that is a violation of the policy and will be acted upon accordingly. So this is not about one drug versus another and how it impairs or anything. If it's impairment, then it's a violation of the policy. But obviously, there's some drugs that can be taken and to a certain level before you're impaired. So another thing I think is important about this as well that makes it complicated and tricky is obviously there's a level of allowance and legality at the state level, but the federal level has not legalized this yet. So there's language pertaining to some of the federal certifications and federal funding and stuff that happens that we want to make sure that there's not going to be jeopardizing anything related to the federal resources that we can get, because that obviously is still illegal at a federal level. So I think that's kind of the high level things that this addresses and maybe articulates a little bit better, so that in the event of a situation, our policy is a little bit more clear that way.
I just want to make sure each employee has an opportunity to be knowledgeable about the standard they're being held to.
Right, and that's a great point. We have talked with directors. Obviously, each director might be different on how they approach it, or if they approach it or remember to approach it or anything. This is something that I think is a good thing that I will go out of my way to try and mention it at some of our employee events, or even we've talked about in the past having some sort of a regular jot form or something where any policy change to the employee policy we can send to all the employees, and they can sign that they've seen that something's changed, and they can do that. And obviously, any questions we can answer them for them, or have Brett help them understand how that policy would be interpreted. So.
Thank you.
If this passes tonight, which we'll go through in a minute, the directors will all meet with you and Norm on Monday. You'll just go over it there, so they'll have all that information as well.
Yeah. We did do this yesterday,
okay.
and so not every director was there, but I've emailed the directors and given them the opportunity to look at this, and again, depending on what happens tonight, if it's passed, then we'll continue to remind the directors that it did pass, and that this is now policy that has been adopted and is part of our employee policies.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Any questions anymore? You good? Yep. Then I'd entertain a motion for the resolution.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Lynn?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Art?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Okay. That was painless. I think that's the last thing other than our reports. So, Jason, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I don't have too much for you. I don't really have anything much to report. There was an email that went out to all the employees that you're included on for an event at the end of the month. So if you're interested in being a part of that and rubbing shoulders with employees and that would be, let me know and we'll plan on that accordingly. So in terms of upcoming meetings for Planning Commission and Development Review Committee, there is not anything that I think is really pending. There's a couple public hearings that are internally initiated, if you will, for a couple ordinance amendments. That's the MSC, Main Street Commercial Minimum Unit Size Amendment. Again, that's one of the strategies to address moderate income housing. There's a road width amendment, which is really cleaning up and addressing a discrepancy that was discovered about the road widths that the state required us to change. And then there's the Green Hall site plan parking reduction. This is a site plan in the industrial park for a site that Kurt Greenhall owns, and he'll be asking for a parking reduction. So the Planning Commission is the land use authority that looks at those. And I know those are the things that I think we were planning on. I don't think there's any other pending applications. a lot of things that we're waiting on, just fees or red lines or things like that to be addressed. But aside from that, that's all that I have to report tonight.
Jason, is there an update on the agritourism?
No, I don't have one for you. I will reach out to him. I was expecting that he would reach out to me to maybe sit down and look at it together. I'm happy to reach out to him and see if we can set up a time and meet and work on that together. But I feel like there may be a little bit more initiative on their end, but I'm happy to.
Okay.
That's it. Lynn?
Several years ago, I was just trying to figure in my head how long ago it was. It's been at least 11 years, maybe 12. My oldest daughter was Miss Santaquin. And I got to spend that whole summer driving a float in parades all through Utah County and everywhere they wanted to go. And then a couple of years after that, my third daughter was one of the runners-up, and so we got to do it again, helping another dad whose daughter was Miss Santaquin. So I've been passionate about Miss Santaquin. It was a wonderful opportunity for two of my daughters. Last Monday night, Keela Gowdy invited me to come and do mock interviews with the possible new Miss Santaquins. And what a wonderful opportunity. We have some wonderful young women who are participating this coming Saturday, actually. It's 22nd. Yeah, this coming Saturday at 7 o'clock at Payson High School. And I promise you we're going to have a wonderful new Miss Santaquin with a couple of great attendants. They could pick anybody in that group and they would do a great job. Just wonderful young women, and they're going to represent us well. I have tickets for each one of you, 2 apiece. If you want to go, I'll give you a ticket. If you don't, I'll get it to somebody who wants to go. I'll hand those out as soon as we're done tonight. But again, it's going to be an entertaining night, and the talent these young women have is just incredible. You won't be disappointed. So that's all I have. I hope you can attend, and it'll be a good evening.
Thank you. Jeff?
Legislative session is over, so we can stop worrying about that.
Yay!
Other than that, the only thing I can think of is not this coming Saturday, the next Saturday, there's the Maracas 5K. So if you want to get up early in the morning and run a couple miles, I think hopefully Maracas will be there, and I'm hoping they'll bring something fun.
Can I ride a bike through it?
If no one's looking. That's all I've got.
Probably still have this cough. Jeez.
That's all I have.
That's it. Art?
I've been looking at our impact fees. I'm wondering what the thoughts were regarding the transportation impact fee. What is that making an adjustment for?
Are you talking fifth?
Excuse me?
They made a change with that a year or two ago. We went into the fifth.
That's a tax. He's talking about impact fees.
Oh,
what's your specific question about transportation impact fees?
Yeah, apparently our transportation impact fee is $768.60. I'm wondering what that's trying to compensate for. What's the impact of a new person coming in?
Road maintenance. Road maintenance.
Right.
Road?
Yeah.
So all of our master plans that we update on a regular basis, generally every 5 years, they will go through and study, and that's what justifies or creates the impact fee. So it's not just a number that was pulled out. There's studies done to justify what that fee needs to be, and then those fees are used accordingly. And like Jeff said, could be used.
I understood there are others a lot better. I just wondered what that one was.
Yeah, some of them are calculations. Some of them are just a base number, base fee. So yeah, that's what that would address.
There is a new carpet in the art room that
I need to go see that.
Kevin, no, the artist, Kyle Vincent has upstairs when he puts
in the museum.
In the museum, and it was paid for wrap tax. I went up and looked at it. It looks really nice. It's a good improvement, good use of the funds. So
good.
That's all.
Okay, Brian.
I don't have much. the museum, speaking of the museum, they're doing a pot of gold hunt. So all throughout March, there's, I think in February they did like count the hearts. It's a fun little way. So if you've been to the museum, or if you, I mean, I think all of us have been to the museum, but anyone who's watching, it gives a fun way to, like, an excuse to go back. I did want to highlight, there's a lot of great businesses in Santaquin. I had the opportunity to go to one of the grand openings. I know Jeff was there, right by Maraca's, the furniture store. Evergreen. And I just was thinking about how brave and committed these business owners are for moving into Santaquin. I had a business and I shut it down. Didn't go too well. And so I think I admire them a lot. And so I just wanted to leave that comment about how great we have these businesses that are moving in, and they're great. And by good people, so many good people.
You know, they were getting ready to open it up and everything was in there. And we were on our way to go buy a bed 3 weeks ago. I said, Colleen, let's just go down there. They'll probably have locked up tight.
Yeah.
And apparently we called them and they said, oh, we can't come out. Well, we're on our way. Is there any chance? And
they've got better hours now.
Yeah. Well, as it was, we needed a bed.
What are the odds?
and it was kind of sad, you know, when you think, oh, I've got to make that kind of an investment. And doggone it. You know, I think it's because there are people that need those kind of things. I hope they do well, too.
Me too.
Yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
Oh, all right. Couple of things. The night of the 22nd, I am performing a wedding.
Oh.
And so
I thought you were doing some like performance, like dance performance or something, and inviting us. I was getting all excited.
It's usually a performance, but I'm not sure I'm going to be there, but I'm going to try to. Are you going to be there no matter what? At the Queen thing?
Yes.
If I'm not there, I'll text you.
Okay.
But would you go do anything that they usually ask the mayor to do?
Sure.
Just help me out.
Yep, I will be there.
Okay, thank you. We did meet with Kevin Marchant, and we went through some of the issues. And you know, he wants a building that is 25,000 square feet, and
it's big.
You start putting that on an acre. You don't have any parking, really. You know, if you have any setbacks at all, you've already lost most of that. You know, you've only got about 15,000 square feet to work with after you've got the whole acre. And he understood. And what we've done is said, hey, we'll just look with you too, see what we can find. He's actually trying to find up to even 4 or 5 acres if he could do that. Yeah. And it's a little difficult right now. And so Norm and I have talked about it. Jason, you were involved with those things too.
We don't have anything left that size?
No. Okay. There was one layout of one, and it's an acre and 3/4 that Jimmy DeGraffenreid owns. It's one of those lots. Mm-hmm. And so we've got him in contact with Jimmy and said, okay, if you can work it out. We don't own it anymore, so we don't control it.
Right.
But we would work with him, and you know, it depends on what Jimmy'd like to do to help him out and get it going too. So I think that's maybe even a better way at this point. Also, our lot prices had gone up, so maybe Jimmy would hold that a little bit. But it was a very good meeting. I think it was pretty positive. So we'll just keep moving ahead. 2 weeks ago, talked briefly about the possibility of that lease on land. Did any of you look at that or review any of those things that were sent through?
Which land?
I didn't see anything.
Nothing
For
was, the cemetery.
for the cemetery.
I didn't.
Have-
See,
we
we
haven't
didn't
received
get.
any.
We didn't get any information.
Yeah, other than the meeting.
Would you make sure that we get that to them? I don't generally do a big bust and throw things out, but if you don't have it, get back with me too. Let me make sure. Let's bring it up then in the next meeting. Would you put it on for that, Jason? And we can have a discussion. I did tell them I want you to please understand that we want to lease the whole place, not just 5 acres and hold 10 off and hope things go well. And they said, well, it's a negotiation. Let's see what we can do. So I was hoping that everybody had it and had a chance to review it. So we will make sure it gets there. Okay? Jason, did Norm leave you the snow water equivalent charts?
I think I saw an email that he sent to you. Can I pull that up?
Yeah, I was hoping you would. I didn't bring my computer.
I saw the governor say that on state average we're at 100%.
Yeah.
Pretty good just from this last storm.
Yeah, we're actually we're beyond median right now. You know, I watch it every morning and go through it, and where we're sitting as of today, we're at about 20 inches of water of the canyon. Wow! There's just short of 5 feet of snow that's sitting in the meadows, and that puts us right on or just a little bit above. No, it's about exactly right on where we were a year ago.
Okay.
And last year we thought, oh, we're way high, but we were actually just a little above median. Does he have the color codes in there?
Yeah, I do.
So red.
So, yeah, he.
Yeah, the red
That's
is,
above the
is
green.
this
Yeah.
current year.
Yeah. Okay.
What was the year of the flooding?
What is what?
2 years ago or
2 years ago?
80?
Okay, yeah. What's?
83.
I just want to know what's that line.
That's the
Oh,
purple.
that's the top one.
That's
the
the
big
big
Okay,
one.
okay. We're not.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I don't want to.
in reality, what we've got is a little more than normal flood possibility. By the looks of it, and with the usual trending, starting towards that last week in April, we'll see a decline starting to happen. You know, we still may get snow between now and then, but if you've looked at the long term, at least the next 2 weeks, after Saturday, it just starts warming up, and those numbers are going to start trending down. And some of that's okay, but what I do want you to know is they're pretty much done with preparing the flood control basin. So
The county debris basin.
yeah,
Good,
they gave a contract to Kenny Sang. Kenny Sang's group came in and removed all that gravel, took it to basin and sand and fines, whatever's in it. And they were able to give the county a deal at a much reduced rate to remove that because they then sold the materials and come out okay. So they're just doing cleanup right now. There's probably some more things that will happen, but this was their hope that before the 1st of April, they'd be cleaned and out of the way. The one thing I did ask them to do before they finished up was to go into our new little parking lot we had up there, put some road base in there so it would be dressed up. And they did it. And not only did they do that, they did it with a road grader.
Nice.
So it really looks nice. They did a great job, and they placed all the rocks back in, and everything looks pretty good. So all in all, we're sitting at, or maybe just a little above right now, of a regular year. However, because the reservoir is filled, we started to drop the water out. In the flood control meeting, they announced last Thursday,
Noticed that.
hey, we're gonna open the gates and
I noticed
start
that.
putting some into Utah Lake, which is great. But it hasn't helped me win the hearts of the governor and putting that water in Great Salt Lake. But hopefully one day he'll see my reasoning and help with that big pipe that we need to put in to get the water down there. If we could do that and just forget about all this flood stuff, it would sure be nice. You know, hopefully in the end we'll get that. I'm sure there's something else that I wanted to say other than I love you and we're all done for the night. Like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Jeff?
Aye.
Art?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Dan?